Hey, it's Roger McDonald from RogerMcDonald.net. Welcome to the webinar on DISC. Now, thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're really going to like this. I know you're really going to enjoy this, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So, how are you feeling today? Well, we're going to be chatting about some really great ways to assist you understand different types of people that you may encounter in your real estate sales. Now, this is specifically a DISC workshop for real estate salespeople, but if you're a salesperson from other industries, you're definitely going to get a lot of benefit from this. So if you can see yourself building rapport with different kinds of people, then you'll enjoy this. So let's get a feel for how it works. That's my name, Roger McDonald. I'm an EDISC practitioner, mindset and success strategist, and metadynamics practitioner. That's me smiling there. Really happy to have you on board today. And this is what we're going to be doing. It's called DISC. So we've got the 4 different spheres: dominant, influential, steady, and compliant. And this is obviously just a brief overview. We're going to go over into it later, but I'm just going to be showing you in the course of this webinar how understanding these different behavior profiles in DISC will really supercharge your real estate efforts and really help you get those results and that edge that you're seeking over your competition. So it's really a fantastic thing to do. This is another diagram which shows DISC for you. So the influence and the steadiness categories are people categories, and the dominance compliance categories are more task categories. And yes, so the dominance and influence are more outgoing, and compliance and steadiness are more reserved. So this is DISC, D-I-S-C. Just a brief overview. I'm definitely going to be going into this more detail for you in the course of this webinar. So really happy to have you on board. And I want to congratulate you today for committing to learn more in your real estate journey. They say in life you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. So when you're learning, then you are definitely green and growing. And in real estate, you definitely want to be learning as much as you can, because it is an industry where it's a tough industry, especially when it's a tough market, tough economy, and you definitely want to have the edge over the competition. Also want to thank those of you who contributed to the pre-webinar survey when asked about some of the problems that you have in your real estate sales. Thank you so much for contributing to your growth and the growth of everyone on the webinar. Some of the things that highlighted were problems with vendors, difficulties in contract negotiations, challenges in relating to different kinds of people, lack of communication, aggressive vendors, communication with husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, whoever's the owners of the house are when they're not agreeing, and so on. So really, really good. So who here has struggled to relate to some different personalities and people? Who here has potentially lost a listing because they couldn't build a relationship with someone? What if I could show you a way to have an understanding with the 4 different behavior profile types and people and how to build effective relationships with each? Would that help you? So you notice these salespeople, they're really struggling, really suffering, really struggling to make the sale, to get the listing, to build their database, because they don't really have a good system for building rapport and relationship with a lot of different people. Thousands of real estate agents join the industry each year hoping to change their financial destiny. However, unfortunately, thousands of real estate agents leave the industry each year unable to achieve what they set out to do. So many tried to learn everything about sales but struggled in understanding how to build relationships with people. What if you had the knowledge to be able to build strong relationships with every person you met? Would that be advantageous to you? And real estate is competitive, isn't it? You're competing with the best from other agencies. You're also competing with agents from your own office. Clearly, you need an edge to separate you from the herd. In this industry, momentum is everything. A few extra listings each year can mean the difference between you being able to get the edge and invest more in your marketing, and or if not, struggle to get ahead while your colleagues and your competition cruise ahead of you. What if you knew what most other agents do not know? Ever met someone who infuriated them? You rubbed them the wrong way and they rubbed you the wrong way. It's like you were talking a different language. It was like walking through mud trying to build a relationship with this person. In contrast, however, you've met people who you gel with right away. They like you and you like them. You're peas in a pod. What if you had the knowledge to be able to build a quality relationship with every person you meet? Maybe they were too pushy and loud. Have you ever met someone like that in your real estate industry? Or maybe you're a bit pushy and loud. Maybe they didn't like you. Maybe they were boring and wanted details. Maybe they just wanted statistics on every single house sold by you. They wanted to know how many houses you'd sold. You ever met that kind of person? They just wanted details, statistics. They want to know everything. Maybe they were kind of an airhead, a social butterfly. They just wouldn't shut up. They just keep talking. And the kind of person who just talks and talks and talks. And maybe that infuriated you. Or maybe you're that kind of person who just talks and talks and talks a lot. And maybe they were just really too soppy and too caring. You ever met that kind of person who's just so heart-orientated and very soft and caring? And that may have infuriated you if you're a person who just likes decisions getting made. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, what can he teach me that I don't already know about real estate sales? But it's good to learn new things, isn't it? Either you're green and growing or ripe and rotten, so they say. So I've met agents who think they know it all, but in a tight market, these are the first ones to underperform, whilst the other smarter agents are learning everything they can to give them the edge. Green and growing agents who learn everything they can actually feel more fulfilled and happier in the long run. In a tough market, these ones excel. Now, I know this may seem difficult to understand. It's fresh knowledge to you. You may never have heard of DISC, or you may have heard of it. But I'd like to encourage you to think of it in terms of this. Mastering this knowledge is a lot like driving a car. At first it's awkward and you're learning how to use a gear stick and clutch while keeping an eye on the traffic. And after a while it becomes unconscious and you're driving, chatting to someone on Bluetooth and thinking about what to cook for dinner. Let me give you some examples. What I mean. You ever felt like you're pushing boulders uphill? There was a real estate agent once, and he was a bright and bubbly, chatty person. And he really connected well with people who were bright, bubbly, and chatty. However, he struggled when he met people who were very rude and to the point. He also didn't like people who were so pedantic about details and wanted to know all the housing statistics in the local area. As a result, he was only an average salesperson. He managed to connect with some people, and others, well, he struggled and they went elsewhere. Pretty soon he was considering another career. He was missing out on a lot of deals because there were some people he couldn't relate to well enough to build a relationship. There was another real estate agent. This time it was a lady. And she was very reserved, a quiet person. She would cringe when she met with loud and overbearing customers, and often felt they were attacking her personally when they spoke to her. She also struggled to relate to people who were bright and bubbly and what she would consider noisy. As a result, her real estate sales struggled, and she struggled to get as many listings as she could have. It seemed that the people on her database were people like her, people who were reserved and quiet spoken. She seemed to get on well with those kind of people. Doesn't that feel like you're just clinging on barely clinging on in your real estate career? What about, there's another real estate salesperson, and he was a tough, strong-willed person. He'd be direct and to the point. Sometimes he'd go and meet a prospective customer and get irritated when people would not make up their mind. He would be impatient and get angry at hold-ups. Sometimes bubbly people infuriated him. He would want them to sign the paperwork and let them get on with his job. His real estate database, included mainly people who were like him. So I don't know whether this is something you're really interested in learning, but I want to congratulate you, so far for really digging in and learning today. They say a mind stretched to new dimensions by a new concept will never go back to the same size again. And I'm certain that once you leave this webinar, you may be a person who sees people in a completely new light with new wisdom. A real estate friend of mine came to me and said, I'm so tired of struggling and getting listings and sales. I want to learn about how people tick so I can be that top real estate salesperson. So he noticed when he went to meet with potential customers in order to list their house for sale, he was able to connect with people who were more like him, quiet, reserved, and with an eye for details. However, he noticed that when he went to meet a potential customer and they had already met with other agents from rival real estate companies, that he would often lose those potential listings to the others unless he and the customer hit it off right away. The funny thing, this was only happening in roughly 1 in 4 appraisals. What was he doing wrong? Well, he didn't know about DISC. And when he learned about DISC, he was able to use this knowledge to increase the numbers of listings he was getting from 1 in 4 to 2 in 4 to 3 in 4. And then almost every time he was getting the listing. People liked him because he was able to tailor his communication to them. Have you found that you struggle to connect with some people while others you seem to connect with them effortlessly? Did you know that studies have shown that 55% of communication is body language and eye contact is 38%? And vocal pitch, speed, volume, and tone of voice are 38%. Only 7% is the actual words that you say. So in this competitive market, do you want to be the real estate agent with the advantage over your competitors? So congratulations, you've joined me today for this is the webinar you're seeing that you may have been saying all the right scripts in sales, but because that's only 7%, but you've struggled with 93% of communication, which is body language and icon and your tone of voice. So I want to commend you for opening your eyes to how you can improve your real estate relationships. So what is DISC? Wow. Well, DISC is a behavior assessment tool based on the DISC theory of psychology, William Moulton Marsden, which centers on 4 different behavioral traits, which today are called dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. This theory was then developed into a behavioral assessment tool by industrial psychologist Walter Vernon Clark. Now, this guy, William Moulton Marsden, you're probably wondering why I put a picture of Wonder Woman. He was one of the creators of Wonder Woman, which they're making a movie very soon. He also contributed to the first polygraph test. He authored self-help books, as well as creating this DISC model and Wonder Woman. So some companies use the DISC assessment as a way to screen potential employees with the thought that certain behavioral types would be better or worse in certain jobs or positions. So DISC is commonly used as a tool to get to know oneself, others, and behavior in interpersonal situations better. There are different leadership methods and styles that coincide with each of the personality types, which should help leaders be more effective. DISC has also been used to help determine a course of action when dealing with problems as a leadership team. That is, taking the various aspects of each type into account when solving problems or assigning jobs. So this is really important because the different kinds of behavior profiles you're going to encounter, you're going to encounter D customers, I customers, S customers, and C customers. Now, the very interesting thing is that you're going to be predominantly one of these. You're going to be predominantly dominant, influential, steady, or compliant. But you're also going to have a secondary quality to sort of round out your personality. But there's going to be one of these 4, which is your dominant area. Now, the interesting thing is how does this apply to real estate sales? Well, the real estate salesperson who can communicate effectively to each of these 4 is definitely going to have the advantage over the competition. Now remember, I said that 93% of communication was your body language and your voice. So the D, dominant kind of characters, dominant kind of behavior profile, personalities, are people who definitely have a different sense of body language and tone. And I absolutely can share that with you in a session later on when I actually take you through your personal DISC profile. Influential people, the I kind of personalities, they have their own body language and tone that they use. The S behavior profile types have their own body language and tone. And the compliant characters have their own body language and tone. Now, the interesting thing is 93% of communication is body language and tone. And all 4 of these have different body language and tone. So imagine, this is why a dominant person will tend to get listings from people who are compliant or dominant. They'll tend to get listings across these 2. An influential person will tend to get listings across these 2. Influential and steady. A compliant person will tend to get listings across the steady and compliant. Or that's generally how they'll go. A steady person will tend to get listings possibly through the compliant and less likely through the influential side. Now, the interesting thing is that each of these view each other differently. The dominant sees the influential as airheaded and weak and a waste of time. The dominant sees the compliant as a hard worker, as a person who gets things done. The dominant person sees the steady person as being weak and soppy. Now, it's interesting. The influential person sees the dominant person as a bully. The influential person sees the compliant person as a spoilsport, so boring. The influential person sees the steady person as, kind of all right, but kind of a bit boring. The steady person sees the influential person as a bit overpowering. The steady person sees the dominant person as a bully. The steady person sees the compliant person as, okay, they're a bit dry. The compliant person sees the dominant person as a bit of a leader. The compliant sees the influential person as a bit, as if they're from another planet. And the compliant person sees the steady person as, as pretty, as okay. So it's interesting how you can see this in the real estate domain, that people who are strong, influential characters struggle to relate to dominant and compliant people because they're totally not details and they're totally not dominant types. They're very friendly. They like to be liked. And so if you were to sit down with me and have your personal disc profile, I will go with you. I will break down your personal disc profile. I will analyze your weaknesses, and I'll be able to give you strategies to bring those weaknesses up to being strengths. And with you being able to bring those up to being strengths, you'll be balanced across the board. So that you'll be able to communicate. When you're talking with a D, you'll know how to talk to a D. When you're talking with an I, you'll know how to talk to an I. When you're talking to an S, you'll know how to talk to an S. And when you're talking to a C, you'll know how to talk to a C. For example, if I'm talking to a D, do not ask a D how they are feeling. They don't care about that. They do not care about feelings. They want action. They want results. If you are talking to an I, by all means, ask them how they are. How's their day? Ask them everything about their holidays, where they went on holiday. Ask them everything. They want to know that they love talking about themselves. And they also love hearing about you. When you're talking to an S, be sure to ask them how they're feeling. And be sure to speak very softly. Because if you speak too loud, you're gonna break that rule of that 93% of communication. You're gonna really put them offside. With a compliant person, statistics, data, statistics, and more data. They love that. If you come in too bright and chatty to a compliant person, they're not going to like it. So do you see how we generally, average real estate agents can only really hit 25 to 50% of the market, whereas superstar real estate agents are able to hit 75 to 100% of the market because they know how to tailor their communication to all different types. Now you're probably wondering, well, Roger, I'm a star salesperson, or I know star salespeople, and they don't know this stuff. Yes, and I'll answer you why. Because they've just learned over time. They've learned over time how to deal with different kind of people, and they know on an intuitive basis how to talk to different character types, different behavior profile types, and they know how to adopt their behavior to each. It's an intuitive thing. It's been based on thousands of hours of being a real estate agent. Or if they've come from another field, they've come from another field where they've interacted a lot with different kinds of people, and they're able to bring that as a strength. So you've done well and getting this far, and I've shown you the 4 disc types, D, I, S, and C, and now people are going to appear very different to you in the days and weeks ahead. Now you know that you can learn to build a relationship with everyone you meet. So how can we use DISC in real estate? So you can be aware of the different DISC behavior profile types and alter your behavior to build rapport with them. D people want straight answers. I people want you to know about them. S people are about feelings and nurturing, and C people are a stickler for details. You can learn to build relationships with different customers effectively. 3, you can tailor your marketing so it appeals to the different DISC types. 4, you can know how to communicate in open homes, price negotiations, and first meetings and networkings. 5, you can get the edge on your competition. What if, when you went to meet a potential customer for the first time, you were able to evaluate quickly what kind of person he or she was and modify your behavior accordingly in order to achieve the best possible rapport and relationship with them? What if as a sales manager, you are able to match the right customer with the right salesman every time based on their behavioral similarities? What if you built such a successful relationship with your customers that they became customers for life? Me, Roger McDonald, because I'd love to take you through your own personal DISC behavior profile, and I'd love to break down your strengths and weaknesses in the real estate field and create a plan of action for you to practice working on your weaknesses so you can bridge the gap between where you are right now to where you want to be in terms of being able to build rapport with any of the 4 different behavior profile types in DISC. I can do this. but it's only through a lot of time, a lot of study. And now I'm aware when I talk to different behavior profile types, I know exactly how to communicate to them in a way that honors them. And it's definitely not manipulating people. It's about communicating to them in a way that they understand and value. Now, if you're going to be in this real estate game for a long time, this is definitely something you want to get under your belt. Why? Because if you don't, your competition's going to be getting it, and they're going to have the advantage over you. They're going to be getting the listing that you miss. So if you're a bit sloppy in your communication, your body language and your tone when you're talking to different behavior profile types, you're going to be missing out. And your competition, who knows this, is going to be taking that listing, and they're going to be taking more listings and more listings and more listings, and then you're going to find yourself looking for another job. But if you're really serious about real estate, you're really serious about getting ahead, I'd encourage you to talk to me about your personal DISC behavior profile. You're really going to love it. I'll be able to, you can get DISC behavior profiles all over the place, but I'm able to actually teach you how to relate that DISC behavior profile specifically to real estate. And that will definitely give you the advantage over your competition. I've also got a fantastic 3-month program where you can actually learn all aspects of sales, all the edge in sales knowledge, things that your real estate competition do not know, they're not aware of. So my name is Roger McDonald from rogermcdonald.net. Give me a call on 0457 569 060. I really thank you and I commend you for checking in and watching this webinar on DISC, because I tell you what, that shows that you're a person who is really committed to getting supercharged, successful results in real estate. And remember, if you're green and growing, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotten. So if you think you know it all, well, you could be overtaken by someone who's green and growing and learning and studying programs like DISC and investing in getting the services of a coach, someone like myself, to really help them get the edge. And in comparison to what you make in a real estate career, an investment in a coach is a very minute fraction of that. So you've got your whole future to look forward to, and really enjoy bringing home that abundance, that money for your family, for your loved ones, and enjoying those successes in real estate that you so richly deserve. This is Roger McDonald from rogermcdonald.net. Thank you so much for tuning in. By all means, get in touch with me. I look forward to building a really strong relationship with you through the life of your real estate career, and being there with you, supporting you as you go to each higher and higher level in your real estate career. Thank you so much.